Hello, we're on our way back to the United Kingdom after our holiday in France. We are crossing the channel by Eurotunnel and we are aiming now for their terminal at Coquelles. We're on the A16 motorway. We stayed at Coquelles near Boulogne last night. We're coming from the south-southwest and we need to turn off at junction 42. Those coming from the east will turn off at junction 42B. As far as I'm aware, the only way into the Eurotunnel terminal by motorhome is off the A16. We have a dog and we need to go to the pet passport office just before we get to the check-in at the terminal. To comply with the pet passport scheme, we have had to have the dog taken to a vet in France. We actually called in St. Lo about 3 or 4 days ago. Your dog needs to be taken to see the vet between 24 hours and 120 hours before your departure time. These times are a vast improvement in the pre-2012 rules. Nowadays you can more or less get anywhere in Europe and still get back to the Channel ports within the 5 days. Whilst at the vet, your dog should have had the tapeworm treatment and the pet passport, page 16, should have been stamped and dated correctly. Also, your dog should have had a clinical examination to ensure that the animal was fit to travel. The vet should have stamped and dated on page 28 for the clinical examination. It is totally your responsibility to make sure that the passport has been stamped and signed and dated correctly. Unless the passport is correct when presented to the passport officers, they will stop you from travelling at that time. It seems a bit late now to be checking the passport, but it would be to your advantage to make sure at this point that the passport is correct and it's been stamped and dated okay. We have now reached junction 42 and we're turning off. Follow the signs for terminal tourism, not the terminal freight sign. Keep in the right hand lane because we will need to turn right to go to the pet passport office. And of course keep within the speed limits on the approach to the check-in booths and the pet passport office. We're now looking for a sign. It's a yellow background with a black paw print on it, and it takes you to the pet's control point. You need to still be in the right hand lane, and shortly we'll be approaching a corner that needs a relatively slow speed to get around. As you can see on the clip, there is a motorhome coming out of the pet passport office area. The car park is on your left hand side, as you can see from the yellow sign with the black paw print. We've always found there's ample space to park the motorhome on the car park. There does appear to be a lot more vehicles on the car park than there are people in the passport office and the surrounding area. Right, we've parked up and there are 1 or 2 things that we ought to talk about before we actually go into the passport office. The pet passport office is over to our right, as you can see in the clip. You will need the pet passport, obviously, You will also need your booking form and the registration number of the vehicle that you're in. You will need the pet passport, obviously. You will also need your booking form and the registration number of the vehicle that you're in. You may need to worry slightly about the ablutions of your best friend. No, the dog, I mean. The dog, if it goes in the office and, shall we say, leaves its mark, then you will be required to pick it up, mop it up, or scoop it up. The authorities have kindly provided a fenced area at the side of the pet passport office for your dog to do what it has to do rather than do it in the office. You will need to know the location of the microchip, so have a look on page 3 of your pet passport. It will tell you there where the chip should be. Ours is on its shoulder blade. While you're in the office, at some point they will hand you a microchip scanner, and you will be expected to scan the machine over the dog to locate the microchip itself. It's a handheld device that needs the button pressing and to move the machine slowly across the area where you think that the chip should be located. If you have a problem, then just ask the passport officer to do it for you. The office itself isn't all that big. There's a counter goes full length of it. There are usually 3 passport officers on the other side of it. We've found over the years that the passport office when you go in is either completely empty or it's full. If you can imagine a reasonably small room with a dozen dogs of different shapes, sizes and temperaments, cats in baskets, and probably a dozen people at least in the room, things can get a little stressful. We've found that keeping a dog on the shortest possible lead and right up against your side is probably the best way to do it. The passport officer will want to see the pet passport, he'll want to see the booking form so he knows which train you're travelling on, and he'll want to know your vehicle registration number. You will be handed the identification scanner, which you will move over the area that you expect the chip to be, and if it beeps correctly, then you'll just hand it back to the officer. Presuming that the numbers on the scanner match the ones on your pet passport and that the vet you used has properly stamped and signed, dated and timed everything correctly, then you are through the process. They'll hand you back your pet passport, your booking form, and will give you a hanger that you must stick to the interior of your windscreen. You now leave the office and you're on your way to the check-in.